It is the three-headed monster of Explain Yourself. If you've been with us many a time, you will notice co-host Kevin Joseph, co-host Will Allred, and sometimes guest co-host real Kevin Joseph, real Will Allred.
I don't
But
know who's real anymore.
we
Yeah.
call her Madam Sorcerer. She is here to talk about the next chapter of Sacrimony, and we couldn't be more excited to have you back because we just love having you on and just get to
Yeah.
Yep.
joke
It's
around
always
and have
it's
fun.
always a great show when you're on.
Yeah, it's
It
always
was-
great talking to you guys.
Yeah.
It
At this point,
restores my energy for the week. So thank you.
yeah.
Aw.
At this point, basically, you're part of the Three Amigos. So we are, I don't know if we should do that. I don't know that may not work in the year 2023.
Mm.
But Steve Martin Short, and Chevy Chase can pull it off. I'm not sure that we three can. So hey, it's just you tonight. Let's, in case somebody's coming in and they've never heard of Sacrimony, how dare they?
I mean,
But-
that's probably like 99.99999% of the indie comics world. Let's be real.
We're all just trying to get that last decimal point up and roll it over.
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely.
So if they haven't, how would you get their attention on Sacrimony? And then we're going to kind of dial it back and we're going to learn a little bit more about you tonight. So
My goodness,
this is your
things are going to
life.
get existential and profound, or maybe
I-
a little depressing.
I have never done anything profound, but I do get existential and very depressing. So
Cool.
two of those three we can
My
do.
kind of people. So I'm Mata Sorcier. I am a self-taught artist and writer from the humble Bronx, New York. And my comic is Sacrimony, A Tale of Love, Life, and Death in no particular order. And it's the story of a teenage girl who died, but then she got better. And the catch is that she has no memory of her past, no idea why she has magical powers, or why she has to hide her newfound demon wings from society.
That's awesome. So we have time. I'm going to just tell everybody, I'm going to chill out this week. This week has been the weirdest week I've had in a long time. Not in my life. I've just had weird stuff happening. Some good, some bad, mostly good. Mostly good, but mostly busy. So I'm just gonna kind of like chill out. Like I got my Cuervo 1800 to kind of like relax myself last night. So I want to ease in and kind of go way back. So
man.
where were you first introduced to sequential art, just as a way to enjoy entertainment?
Oh man. I kind of stumbled my way into comics because like comics weren't on my radar for a very long time. Like I kind of started with like, cartoons and video games and stuff, but I always liked storytelling and I didn't know what to do with my stories. So I think the first time I really got drawn into comics was when I discovered Sandman in like my mid-teens. I think I was like 15 or 16 or whatever. It was the weirdest thing because it was like I was shopping at Hot Topic as, the average 15-year-old goth girl does. And yeah, I saw a t-shirt with death on it and I was like, wow, that's a cool looking character. Like, what's that about? And then from there I just got sucked into Sandman and I was like, it's such a cool story because it's not like, all right, Sandman and friends have to save the world. It's just like, I always say it's just like a bunch of gods being assholes, and like that's kind of my brand. So it was very inspirational.
Sandman and family might be destroying the world at times and in places. Yeah,
just to spite each other too. Like it's so petty, and I love it.
You're definitely in the right spot. It's on my Mount Rushmore of comics, and Will used to teach it in college. So
we're all fancy teaching Sandman.
I try.
So how did that come about, Will?
Yeah.
Me, so for many years, because I am old, and cranky.
I'm catching up to you guys. Just you wait.
Yeah.
Maybe percentage wise, but in total, it's always going to be equal.
Yeah. I worked at the University of Arkansas for many years, and one of the benefits that we had working there was that we would get to take time during the day to take one class a semester. So over the course of about 15 years, That's about how long it took. I got the master's, and then I got the PhD in English, and I'd always been somewhat uncomfortable in front of, large groups.
That's a mood.
Yeah, and so I went, you know what? Let's try teaching, because that'll get me over that pretty quick, and
Have to,
Or
right?
give you nightmares.
or give me nightmares and PTSD. But
Right.
the first is what happened. But I some of the my the faculty of where I got my at the U of A knew someone at Northwest Arkansas Community College, so I ended up teaching at nights because I still had the day job for about 6 years, and
And you
I
didn't
was
get a
everybody.
second PhD, you lazy bastard.
I know. But everybody taught like English 101, the base level English. So I taught that every semester. But then I asked one time and I said, hey, could I maybe teach a comics class? And they're like, sure. And I went, suckers.
Nice.
So
The long
about
con.
the long con, so like every other semester, I got to teach English. And I just did this scatter shot of totally no rhyme or reason. Sandman was part of it, Hellboy, um, Planetary. Um, of course, you have to do Watchmen. You have to do Dark Knight. I did Walter Simonson's Thor because, hey,
Nice.
I'm a fanboy. So, just we did. What else did we did with Sandman? I I went back and forth a lot on it because the first 8 issues, well, the first 7 issues of Sandman aren't really Sandman yet, because they're very, kind of,
An-
task
Anchored to
oriented and
DC. They're anchored
yeah,
to
plot
DC.
driven.
Yeah,
Yeah,
They're like episodic almost, I guess.
yeah. And
very much.
then,
Yeah.
of course, Sandman 8 is where Death first appears, and that's really where the book kind of gels and becomes mostly what it's going to be.
Mhm.
Uh, and as much as I love Season of Mists, well, I mean, I love the entire series. I, that kind of moored it back in, and a Game of You was a little bit. So I basically did just a little short stories, Dream Country, which
Mhm.
has some really great stories. It has Calliope in it, which is, you know, really interesting and brutal, and at the
Yeah,
same
it's
time,
it's it's one of the darkest stories I've ever
yeah.
read.
But it also has, and I can never remember the name of it. It's Masks. Yeah, it has the
But,
female metamorpho.
yeah, is Dream of a
And
Thousand Cats in that one, or
it is, and so
okay,
is the Charles Vess illustrated. It won a World Fantasy Fair award.
with the Midsummer Night Dream
A
and the Fair
Midsummer Night's
Folk?
Dream. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly. Which is really
Yeah,
great because
there's a
it was
couple good
snippets.
ones in there. I mean, four
Only
issues,
only one, two, three, or four.
3 grand slams, and the fourth is a 2-run home run. Yeah, it's okay.
It's so funny
Yeah.
because like I like the style of the Midsummer Night's Dream one, but for some reason I couldn't get through like the writing, so I was just flipping the pages, going like, oh, this looks nice. I guess something's happening.
Yeah.
Well, Charles Vess just has such a unique style as an artist too.
Hmm.
I don't know of any other comic book artist whose work looks like Charles Vess. I'm sure they're out there, but I haven't run across them. And that's a huge compliment to him. But there are other artists who are amazing, and I love Art Adams. He's
Hmm.
probably my favorite artist ever in the comic book medium. But I wouldn't say that nobody else looks like Art Adams. Nobody else looks
Hmm.
like Charles Vess. It's
It's
extraordinary
magical.
what he does. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's got and this is an untrained eye. I'm just a writer, me not
Mhm.
art at all. But there's like this medieval quality to it. Like you'll see on some of the medieval tapestries or something. Maybe it's the colors. I don't know what it is, but it just gives me that sense of, and maybe it's the subject matter as well. But
I think it's also just the style where it's like he doesn't do a lot of like, those hyper dynamic like angled
Oh yeah.
sort of stuff. It's very much just like straight on, like, this is what's happening. Here's like a clear shot of it.
Mm-hmm. Another artist, his layouts would be considered not mundane, but
Basic
they're
or
just
whatever.
basic. But
Basic, yeah.
but the actual figures are so gorgeous that it does not matter. So we've got, we'll say, we have to say hi to Shawnee. She says hi to Kevin, Will, and the amazing Matta.
Hi, Shawnee.
And Tate says, Matta is indeed amazing, but I'd also like to think she is your friendly neighborhood comic book creator.
I can't stick to walls, though. It's false advertising.
Well, we have to throw in sensational and spectacular in there, don't we? As well as
and superior for like what,
I
2
don't know
years?
if I'd go there.
But
well,
so you do Sandman, and you put this out. Obviously, kids have chosen to take a comic book class. What was the percentage of kids that came in who were comic book readers, and the percentage who were like, well, it seemed interesting and like an easy class?
Well, it was an easy class, but it was interesting because it was about 50-50, you know, and I actually had it was probably maybe 40-60 female male students, which I thought was great, you know, because, you know, we were going to talk about, you know, lots of different things. Oh, one of the ones that we did that was on the syllabus was Why the Last Man. So we did the first trade of Why the Last Man. And I loved going through that issue because you could almost see the lights go on in some of the guys going, wait, he's hiding himself. He's having to present himself different, you know, I mean, just because it was,
my, how the tables have turned.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it was a lot of fun, but, I mean, when it came down to it, I am old and weak, and I couldn't do comics, the day job, and
teach at night, of course.
So
Did you sleep, bro?
No, Will does not sleep.
Oh, no. Well, that is why he has the midnight hour, I guess.
Yes,
that's right. Yeah. So I basically I consider myself on a sabbatical because honestly, I love teaching. It's one of those things that's just. I mean, I am an introvert, but I'm jazzed because I'll be in class. You have to be on, right? So I'm on. And then by the time I get home, which is, 30 minutes, 45 minutes later, it's like, I got to freaking crash now. Okay. I mean, it's time to sleep and recover. But it was a lot of fun, and I hope one day to maybe get to do it again. We'll see how things work out. But I'm glad that Sandman was kind of your gateway drug. Neil Gaiman, he's responsible for a lot of people and creators, I think, getting into comics. So that's quite amazing.
It is amazing. So did you read the entire run before checking out other comics, or did you realize, hey, I'm liking this, there might be some other things like this that I could also like?
My tastes are they're like tripolar. So it's like I had Sandman.
You'll try anything?
Yeah, kind of. Like I never found myself drawn to like the superhero stuff, but I did read like a shit ton of manga. So like, I mean, I grew up watching like DBZ, so I was like, oh well, there's also Dragon Ball Z manga, I should read that, or like, Sailor Moon this or whatever, and like I just picked up like a bunch of whatever sort of like just whatever caught my eye, whatever looked weird. Like I'm really into like weird unconventional stories, if you couldn't tell. So it's like, anything that seemed strange, like it appealed to me, or anything that I thought the art style was cool. Like I really liked Berserk. I never like got to read the whole series. Well, I mean, it's not finished because the poor guy died, but I never got too far into it because I didn't have money to buy the books. But like, I enjoyed reading it for the time that I had money and also time to read. Just weird stuff.
That's where the unsolicited commercial, that's where the Hoopla app comes in. Check out Hoopla.
You've been saying it. I got to take you up on that.
I mean, it's free. It's free. It's
Yeah,
great. You know, I
there's
read
literally no reason for me to not have it aside from the fact that I just
You
have
don't
not
have
gotten to it.
time.
Yeah, the thing is when you're like writing and drawing your own shit, there's so little time to read
right.
everyone
No,
else's stuff.
I absolutely understand. I was in a great place where I was taking my daughter to dance, and I would just grab my phone and I would just sit outside because after COVID we're not allowed to come in, which is fine. Um, when she was 4 years old, a 35-year-old dude sitting watching the girls dancing was pretty fine. Now that she's 14, a 48-year-old dude sitting watching dancing is probably not fine. So I'm more comfortable sitting outside. But I got to read like both volumes of Nice House on the Lake. I got to catch up on probably my favorite uh, kind of big 6, 7, whatever you want to call indie books. Oh gosh, now I'm blanking on it. It's not The Hero in the Crown because that's a novel that I love, but it's the British book where basically
By
mythology.
Kieran Gillen.
Yes, something in the
Yes, I know
King,
what you're
something
talking
in the Crown. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
great, but I got to catch up for it for free just sitting outside. Now we got somebody,
Oh,
lady over there. So we got her in February, and she's wonderful. And our other dog's a little bit older and doesn't want to be harassed. So now I take Lady and she sits on my lap. So I get less reading done now. But every once in a while, I'll grab one. So I say, Hoopla app, get all these books that you can, and you can read Tart for free on it.
oh, there you go.
Or if you've read Tart, you can borrow Tart for free and give it a 5-star review. I don't mind if you game the system, guys. But no, like libraries, go get your library card and go borrow these things, man. But yes, time.
Yeah,
Time is
I do
helpful.
listen to lots of audiobooks, so
That's cool.
'cause,
While you
like,
draw.
yeah, so it's like while I'm drawing, I'm listening to like some weird like psychology or like sociology type thing. Like that's my
Cool.
hobby. I'm super duper into that for some reason.
Okay.
I don't
And
there's something interesting about studying how the human brain works and how other humans interact with other humans, and it's a wild ride.
Yeah.
there is
Tate says to game that system before it games you.
That is
I
very
agree.
wise.
there is a book called On Intelligence. Have you listened to that one?
No, what's it about?
It talks about the theory of how our intelligence kind of evolved, and it does some really simple things that I was just kind of like amazed with. And he goes, humans were kind of different, but this self-awareness, this thinking that we do
It sucks.
seems to come from the yeah, sometimes seems to come from the neocortex. So we're going to find intelligence as having a neocortex, and then we're going to figure out what all that means. It's a really and he's done another book called A Thousand Minds, or a thousand brains, I think. But I'll shoot you the info
Yes,
after. It's
chances are my library has it. I have a few different library cards from a few different boroughs of New York, so I'll see
Nice.
which one has it. Like I have a
Nice.
Queens library card, and I just like I never go to Queens. It's so terrible.
Oh, I mean, it's a skip over. I wouldn't,
No, by public transit, it always takes me like 2.5 hours, even though it's like technically 9 miles away. So
No, yeah, I certainly wouldn't be traveling 2 hours away to go to the library.
No,
I'm a huge library proponent. I'm not traveling 2 hours to get there.
yeah, I was like, oh, I can apply online. Cool. Like, I'll
So-
just get it online.
Shawnee asked, is that Jeff Hawkins?
I think it is. I'm looking it up on Amazon right now.
Okay. That sounds super interesting. I'm not often a nonfiction person. I'm usually just there for a story, but as Matta knows well, the eel book was probably the most interesting thing I've run into in the last 5 years. So guys, the mystery of the eels, or whatever the name of that, check it out because
It was
it's
Patrick
nuts.
Svensson, I believe, was the
That sounds
guy.
right.
Yeah.
It'll make you interested and super sad and every emotion you could have about these super weird fish called eels.
Are
You
they?
know,
I forget.
yeah, or what? They're something, right? I've been finding myself watching physics documentaries or physics YouTube stuff because I don't know. I'm just like, we don't really exist. It's just a collapse of a probability wave, and we're mostly empty space. I'm just like, okay, this is just weird. This is awesome. I'm just gonna keep watching.
So
It's like mind exploding almost, where you're just like,
Mhm.
is anything real?
I
Yes.
asked my smartest scientific friend. So I'm like, he's one of my smartest friends and he's in the sciences. And I said, all right, I've been reading a little bit about this whole thing about us being in a simulation and how there is certain evidence that we are in a simulation.
Mhm.
What is that? What does that mean? And he says to me, Kevin, I asked my smartest friend about this. And he goes, and he explained it to me, and I didn't get any of it. So my smartest scientific friend asked his smartest scientific friend, and he couldn't get any of it. But he's like, these people who super understand it, there is evidence that none of this is real, but sort of it has to be a simulation of what's the difference between reality and a simulation anyway?
Yeah, I was about to say, like, basically, yeah, what is the difference, and like what are we simulating, and like, do we even exist on the other side outside of the simulation, or are we just part of it? Like,
I don't
Are
know,
we?
but we're not stopping tonight till we figure this shit
all
out.
right, let's get on this.
So strap
Three
in,
of the
everybody.
most brilliant minds right here, trying to figure it out.
So Tate says, I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos. Oh, wait, about simulation theory and AI, and my brain is broken. Okay. So
That is a valid response, sir.
yeah,
I think
get it.
so.
And
So,
we got the chat going. So I'm sorry, Layden, I believe,
Ladon?
says if we're in a simulation, we have a purpose of some kind. Yes. What that is I don't know. I think it's
Kick-ass
more
and chew
interesting to
bubblegum.
me there, and I'm all out of bubblegum.
or
I
our
am
bubblegum.
all out of bubblegum. I'm less interested in what our purpose is than who created the simulation personally. But
Yeah, what kind of sick mind came up with this shit, right?
right.
Yeah, I know.
And if we're in a simulation and a sick mind came up with that, is that God? If it
There you
created
go.
all of us and is watching us and judging us, is that God?
It would
I don't
have
know.
to be like, I begrudgingly say yes.
But not a God that we're going to visit when we die, which is, not. I'm not saying, my whole religious thing is, I don't effing know, and I really hope that there is something because it's nice to think about. But I also have no argument against somebody that's like, there's nothing after this either. I have, there's no argument about it, but I'm like, it'd be really nice if there was.
Yeah, I'm of the mindset that everything was just a glorious accident.
Yeah.
Like, everything just happened, and there's probably no rhyme or reason for anything, but like, I'm just gonna not be an asshole and see what happens.
I think it's okay to not be an asshole, even if there's nothing after this. It feels like that's okay. It feels like I don't need a reward to not torture other people, but maybe
Right?
I'm the idiot.
No, but I mean, it's like, if you're only not being an asshole because you expect a reward, doesn't that make you an asshole?
Absolutely.
I think by definition, yeah. I mean,
that is the yes.
Rule number 1: don't be a dick.
Yes,
Don't be a dick.
absolutely.
All right, so we know that sacrimony has a God, and we are here for you to explain yourself about sacrimony. So,
oh man,
let's talk about that for a little bit, and we can get back to the existential and the depressing soon. Like I said, I'm not going to talk about anything intelligent, but I can get existential and depressing.
all right, you're in good company.
So
Like I say things that sound intelligent, but
yeah,
I'm
that,
convincing.
I reminds me of what my friend said about Wes Anderson movies. He's like, you watch a Wes, and I love Wes Anderson movies, but he said you watch a Wes Anderson movie and you're like, oh, there's a lot of symbolism, and then you realize it's just a silly story, and he just puts stuff up to fool you into thinking there's symbolism. You know, he's not. And I'm like, yeah, okay, but it's still funny. I don't care. I'll watch Bottle Rocket 9 times before I watch a bunch of other movies. Would you like to share your page, or would you like me to share it?
If you have it handy, because I don't have it handy.
I
at the
do.
moment.
Let's do
Okay,
it.
cool.
All
So
right.
yeah, I mean there's several gods in Sacrimony, and I kind of went the satire route of like these gods are just like absolute assholes. Oh, look at that number go up. Look at you.
That's
Nice.
explain yourself, Bob.
Yes, I'm here for
That's
that.
right.
So yeah, I mean, like the gods are sort of that very satirical, like I'm right, you're wrong, even if I'm wrong sort of gods.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I was heavily inspired by like overall mythology, like Greek, Roman, Hindu mythology, like Egyptian mythology, where like where the gods are just kind of assholes, and yet
Yeah.
people they still find a reason to worship these gods because they want that divine reward or whatever. Some
Mm-hmm.
people genuinely believe that they're doing good,
Mhm.
and I really love this particular issue that I came out with, issue 6, because it goes behind the scenes with the gods, and like it starts asking those existential questions, because it's like, all right, Unica died. She's in the afterlife and she was put into what was supposed to be heaven. But then when she gets there, it's like this completely desolate place. Like, it's like dust in the eyes for days, basically. Everything's in ruins. Nobody has any idea what's going on. And she finds a group of people who are still trying to kiss up to God, basically being like, all right, well, maybe this is our final test. And when we accept that we don't need any of our worldly possessions and we don't need our family or anything, like maybe once we accept that God is all we need, then we'll get our true reward. And like it starts going down that route. And I really enjoyed like, crafting the dialogue for these pages. Like there's the guy who's basically like leading this little religious focus group, and they're trying to figure out like how do they really accept God into their lives so that they can like be one with God. And there's my covers.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll watch the GIF and we'll get back to that
All
Todd
right.
ass here soon.
Yeah.
Which we'll talk about when we get out. There it is.
Yes.
So, guys, if you're listening to the podcast, you got to check out the variant cover, because Matta did something that I love, because I'm not for or against TNA covers when the book is right. I think great. People love it. Give people what they want. But there are very few sexy dude covers, and Matta created a hot ass cover, and I mean that very specifically, of the guy's running away from us and all of his butt-tastic glory, and I say, God bless you. Put more of this, because it shouldn't just be for one part of the audience
dudes
to get some titillation.
So what's funny? I took a vote for the cover. I was like, hey guys, who do you want to see on the spicy cover this time around? And they voted for that particular character, Angelo, because like he wasn't on any covers before. So they're like, all right, let's see this guy. So I was like, all right, how do I show off some of the best features?
Right.
I know exactly how. Like I've done some other like spicy man covers. The Naughty Nun one is still my favorite. Still a very special place in my heart.
Yeah.
But yeah, haha.
Yeah, it's Nightwing-esque. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Well,
Then I've achieved my mission.
Everybody should follow you on Twitter, because I love some of your interactions on Twitter. You showed the cover with the bird cages, and you're like,
Oh yeah.
what was it? Nobody. I want bird cages. And then you said, now I've got to draw all these bars.
Yeah, it's like wouldn't it be a cool idea to have a lot of bird cages?
It's gorgeous, though. I
That's
really do,
absolutely
and
gorgeous cover.
I said this on Twitter, but I really feel like you're leveling up. Not that
Mhm.
you needed to,
Oh,
but
wow,
these
nice.
3 covers, the composition are amazing.
Mhm.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been just spitefully trying to level up because I'm like, to keep things a little real, like I don't look like a comic creator, so it's hard to get people to take me seriously.
Mhm.
So, like, a lot of people will doubt my writing, but, like, I just spitefully level up my art more and more, so it's like, they can't doubt that, they see it right there. Like,
Mhm.
even if someone's never read my book and they're like, "Oh, well, she's probably not a very good writer. What do women know about writing?" But, like, to see the art and be like, there is no denying that, like, I can
Mhm.
draw some cool shit.
And
Well,
the composition of this, just
yeah.
like,
Hmm.
it's incredible.
Well, and you kind of went through a a bit of a rough patch, with your art recently. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because I mean, it's really, to me, it's, there's some days I don't want to sit down and just, do it. But it's one, it's nice to know that other creators often feel that as well. But it's also really nice to know that there are ways around it. So, I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it was classic burnout. I mean, I've been doing all of this stuff by myself for so long, and it was just like I went through a couple of months where I could not draw. Like
Mm.
it every time I went to my drawing tablet, like my brain would be kicking and screaming, like, please no, don't do this, don't make me do this. And yeah, I was like, I had a moment where I was like, oh my God, am I just gonna hate drawing forever? Like, is this my reality? Do I have to go like crawling back to TJ Maxx and like applying for a job there or something? Like, all of the existential horrible things. And I think that a lot of people do go through burnout, but nobody wants to talk about it because, toxic positivity and like
Right, right.
you're supposed to always pretend you're happy. Otherwise, like, nobody wants to talk to you. Nobody wants to talk to someone who's like negative or a downer or going through a rough time. But I always try to be open about like, hey, you know what? I do this and I struggle and like,
Mhm.
either I find a way around it or I don't. And actually the answer was to just do more traditional art. So, I mean, I have like, this cover that I did in marker because I couldn't get myself to color it digitally. And then I was just like, I let myself play around with different media while I'm still working on the comic, and I think that keeps things fresh. So that's why I have all of these pencil sketches now because I realized that I would rather, sketch things out in pencil and, get the feel for that, feel the pencil on the paper and then like scan it and do whatever. And like it worked better than just staring at a computer screen for hours.
Right. So I think you might have answered this question, but and I know that this is not, you're speaking for you only, and I'm not asking you to speak for other artists, but when you say burnout, you couldn't draw, were you unable to kind of even make marks, or were you just very unhappy with the drawings that you made?
I couldn't even like make a single mark. Like every time I tried, I was just like, I hate this. What am I doing? Like I would rather be chewing ground glass right now.
Okay.
Yeah, like it was pretty rough.
And so for you grabbed at times, you probably sometimes you went and grabbed ground glass and chewed it, but you changed your medium and found a way that, we talked about Neil Gaiman earlier. He told a story once about having like crippling writer's block, and I don't know what he was working on. I don't know if it's Sandman, American Gods, or what, but he just absolutely could not write, and it was three
I think it was
weeks of
American Gods, actually.
okay,
Yeah.
like weeks of nothing, absolutely nothing was happening, and he decided to write a short story, and that day he wrote eight pages short story, in and out, done. And he went, oh good, I can still write, I'm still a writer, I just can't write that right now.
Yep.
um, so it isn't interesting that you realized, okay, I can't do this right now, but I can maybe do something else. And even if it wasn't for this comic, it's still exercising the muscles until you can get back into it.
Yeah, it's also just I think regaining confidence because once you take that hit of like, oh my God, I can't do this thing that I'm supposed to be doing, like your confidence takes a dive. So it's
Mm-hmm.
nice to be able to, switch it up and work on something else and just keep using those muscles, like you said, to realize like they're not gone, they're not dead. It's just that like in this moment I can't do this very specific thing, and like
Yeah.
that's okay.
And at the beginning of the pandemic, I couldn't turn my brain off enough to write anything new. I could not write a new chapter of Tart. I could not write anything new. So what I had to do is grab old scripts that I'd already written and edit them, because I could actually edit something and make something that existed better, but I couldn't start from scratch for the life of me for maybe 6 months until I could kind of just get my brain back into it. And that's, like just shifting gears and doing something slightly different, but still
Adjacent.
in the avenue. Yeah. Adjacent to what you're doing. That's a cool thing that, there, it's a way. So if you're a writer, an artist listening to this, and you're finding this happening, find a way to do sort of what you're doing in a different way and see if you can't just release some of that energy.
And also just to remind yourself that you can do something.
Now, was this when you, because you're burnt out, is this when you also came up with another book to do, because you've got 2 books you're doing on Kickstarter?
Or did the second book cause the burnout? Which was it?
I'm not sure, because Buddy and Friend, I mean, it's super easy to get through. Like I can knock out like an entire book in less than a month, because it's just like it's a fun style. It's really easy.
Right.
Like there's no complex shading, not that many like, extra atmospheric effects or anything. But
yeah, if you're watching this show where you can look at the art, there aren't too many 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 beautiful people in one panel, and this panel might have been what caused your burnout there, Matt.
Yeah.
No, this was after the burnout. So funny thing is, once I worked through the burnout, I bunkered down, and I knocked this entire book out in less than a month.
Wow. Colors as well?
Yeah, the colors, like the inks, the colors, and everything. So it was a weird time, because I was just like, suddenly I didn't want to do anything else but work on this book. So like that's just how I spent the entire month of May, which is why I pushed the launch up, because I was like, I finished this really early. What am I sitting around and waiting for? Let me just get it out there.
So did you move completely back to traditional? So you're penciling, inking, and coloring traditionally on the board, or are you doing some parts digital, like maybe the lettering?
It's so funny. This is all digital now. Like
Oh.
I had a moment where I was like, I'm going back to traditional. I hate digital. And then all of a sudden it just like the spark was rekindled, and it was just, I did it all digital. Like I tried coloring traditionally, but it was like, it was a very slow process. And I was like, I need to speed this up. And then I sped it up too much, and I knocked out a 30-page book in under 30 days.
Okay. I see the art on the page. You did not speed it up too much.
No.
If you can do art like that, you're going at the right tempo.
Good to know.
And we've got a good comment down here. Yeah, that's, you gonna show that one?
You go for it, because I was just, my eyes, I'm trying to read it.
This is true.
Bloodstone goes for that.
They give life. They save lives.
So we talked about, we mentioned Buddy and Friend, which is really fun, and we've got Sacrimony. Just take us back a little bit, because Sacrimony didn't have its start with the first issue on Kickstarter. You'd been doing it for quite a while, long before Kickstarter, right?
Yep. I started Buddy and Friend way before Kickstarter. I started Buddy and Friend in 2013. And that was like, it has a special place in my heart, because that helped me work through like a lot of existential bullshit and like depression and just feeling like I couldn't do anything. Like I kind of taught myself to do comics through doing Buddy and Friend way back when. So I started it as a webcomic, and I just like updated like a page a week just to give myself something to look forward to for that week. Cause it was a dark time. Like everything in my life was going wrong, and I was like, all right, well, I can at least try to do something. So yeah, I came up with like these, easy to draw characters and this fun style with this silly story that I didn't have to overthink, and I ran with that for a while. And then I did like, I finally got the courage to start Sacrimony in 2016. Yes, Pumpkin, I know you're adorable. I don't know if you can hear him. But yeah, so it's been a long ride, and then I restarted both series because I was like, all right, I've learned enough to make like a nice, proper, polished comic. So like Buddy and Friend, I had I think like 250 pages in.
Oh my God.
Sacrimony,
Wow.
I was like 306 pages in before I was like, all right, I have to start from the beginning.
See, I knew
Like,
that about Sacramony. I didn't know that about Buddy and Friends. Are you are a monster, man. I
Thank
don't,
you.
but
That's
your
the kindest
evil,
thing I've heard all day.
your evil it seems to be directed just at you. So,
Yeah.
but it's so cool that the confidence to know, okay, I started this when I didn't know what I was doing, but the concept I'm still absolutely for. I'm going to circle back through. That's so interesting. I don't know of anybody else who's done something like that in comics. I'm sure they have, but I can't place it.
I've heard a lot of like especially when I was considering restarting Sacrimony, like, you know, people are like, "Oh my God, you're crazy. You're gonna get in the stuck in the cycle of like rebooting it over and over again, and you're gonna just keep doing the first issue over
Mhm,
and over again. Like just keep going from where you are." And I was like, no, I knew I needed to do like a complete rewrite and redraw, and like,
mhm.
you know, I will never ever consider going back and doing it again because I'm so happy with how like, you know, this attempt turned out.
Good. That
Yeah.
that's good. That's good because part of growing as an artist is knowing that you can also be done with something too.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, like it's
How?
oh,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, it's finally at the level where like, you know, even though I'm improving now, I know that I'll look at it like, you know, 10 years from now and I'll still love the artwork. I'll still love what I've written. Like I couldn't say that about my first attempt because like I was using like tools that I didn't know how to use. I was like I didn't know what looked good. I didn't know a lot about composition. I didn't know how to make a good speech bubble. I made those like, you know, the long like $5 foot long sort of speech bubbles that
Yeah.
just went across the entire thing.
Mhm.
So yeah, it just, and I know that I can't stand there next to every new reader who picks up like a 2016 Sacrimony book and be like, you know, I promise you the art and the writing will get better. Just like hang in there. Like
Right.
first
Right.
impressions matter. So I knew that if I wanted to like have it be successful and, you know, not have to have people say like, oh hey, I read Sacrimony and like it's kind of weird in the beginning but it gets better. Like I just wanted it
Yeah.
to just, you know, hit right away.
So
So
I missed this in the chat real quick. I'm so sorry, Will, but you can use this. Desi says that you should release your artistic energy all over us. So if you want to use that as a bumper sticker, I think it's
It sounds a little dirty, but I can get behind it.
So you had 306 pages of Sacrimony done. You've done, what are we, 180 pages?
210
200,
considering the
110?
issue 6.
Gotcha. Are we to a point or past the point where you got the first time around, or is there, or have you expanded some and that's still quite a ways off with this go round?
Wait, my brain didn't process that properly. Can you ask?
I think
I
he's
probably
asking is this still territory that you had traveled before, or are you in new lands?
Oh, it's still old territory. So
Okay.
once I get to the middle of chapter 3, which is probably about issue like 13 or 14, that'll be like new territory. So
Okay.
this is
Okay,
still
cool.
stuff that I'm like, you know, revamping and rewriting a little. And like from issue 6 and on, it has been a lot easier because it's like the art was a lot more like competent then, so I didn't have to do a whole lot and like really start from scratch. It was more of like, all right, well, let me just trace over this, make the lines a little better and whatever, instead of like, let me draft entirely new pages.
Hmm.
So yeah, that
Awesome.
definitely helped speed things up. So pretty much from issue 6 through issue 14, things should be smooth sailing. And then after that, that's future me's problem.
Nice, very nice. So, we've talked about this multiple times, but for, those people that haven't, seen you on the show before, um, we asked the question, how long do you expect Sacrimony to go? And I always love your answer. So
Between 50 to 70 issues, probably longer, knowing how long it takes me to get to where I want to go. But yeah, I mean,
gotcha.
I'm in it for the long haul. I love the story. There's a lot of story to be told. It does have like a definite ending. I know like what's gonna happen. It's gonna be a long, incredibly weird journey to get there.
So what does happen?
The ending of it.
You shut your mouth, Kevin. You shut your mouth.
But it makes so much sense that your entree into comics was Sandman, and you have a 50 to 70 issue series with a defined ending. That makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It does. And by the way, fist bump because long series. Yay.
Yes.
That fist bump is for people who weren't thinking, do not do this. Will and I say start with a four page short. Start with a one shot. Start with a 4-issue miniseries at the most.
Oh my God.
Because guess what? You can do a 4-issue miniseries, and then you can do a sequel that takes your story farther. And that's just because, like Matt learned, Will learned, I learned, this shit is hard.
And it's slow. It's so slow.
Yeah. So yeah, we all made the mistake, so hopefully you won't. But we're in it. Like we jumped out of the plane. We are building our parachute as we go down. So we're gonna do it. We're just saying, hey man, you can just kind of make something small and finish it and celebrate in a way that if you plan a 50-issue maxi series, you can't have that celebration. But if you plan a 50-issue maxi series and tell people you're going to do a 5-issue mini and then do 9 more, you get to celebrate every time you release the 5th issue of each miniseries. So
I feel like that's how I feel with the trade paperbacks, because it's like it's a nice like I closed this chapter and I'm opening a new chapter, so that's where I get to celebrate. Like first story arc done.
Yeah,
it's still gonna be a long ass series, and you know I hope people stick around. But
Yeah.
at least I closed this one chapter.
No, but it's super interesting that like the way you've done the book, and I've said it before. It's a very it is fantasy, but it's not fantasy like we run into a lot, and like how my brain works. I saw on the pages we went through, this is not for somebody who's looking for a Tolkien-esque fantasy story. Yes, if I'm going to write a fantasy story, mine's going to be kind of Tolkien-esque. I love that yours isn't. That doesn't mean I don't love reading Tolkien-esque fantasy stories, but I love when something doesn't feel like that too.
Yeah, it's nice to step outside of it once in a while and be like, what is this entirely new, incredibly weird world that's going on here? Like, let me learn more about it. Because I mean, I definitely didn't want to go in with people having these preset expectations of like, all right, well, this race is like that, that's like that, this is going to be like this.
This is her orcs, this is her goblins.
Yeah, I just, like, I really hate the hidden racial stereotypes that come along with all of those races where it's like, all right, well, the orcs were based off of like African and Native American tribes, and by the way, they have -2 intelligence. Like, gee, thanks, guys. I really wanted to step away from that, like very, very far away from that.
Right.
Like on another continent entirely away from that, or another planet. Just
yeah,
because it's like I can't stand it. So like when I tried to make it my races, I definitely was very conscious of like I didn't want them to mirror any specific races in real life, to be like, all right, well, humans are like British people and this terrible race is like, Middle Eastern people are like, I really tried very hard to avoid that like the plague. And that's why I ended up coming up with this like weird world of stuff that we've never seen before, because I didn't want to involve any real world horrific stereotypes.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems that really seems to, I think, be reflected, from what we've talked about your readers. I mean, you have such a diverse, group of readers that keep coming back to support you because, well, I mean, first off, it's great and it's beautiful, but I think there's a lot of representation too, which that really is important for people to be able to see themselves in their fiction, in their stories, it's vital.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, even if like I try to reflect very human experiences too, even though it's like a fantasy story about gods and stuff. I always say it's like, extraordinary people doing very ordinary things. So like if, even if a character doesn't look like the reader, like they can still find a part of themselves in the character.
Mhm.
And like I feel like there's something really powerful about that where, someone can be like, all right, well, there's like, a single mom who's like struggling to work and raise her kid at the same time. Like, people can see themselves in that role, or like, someone who was promised a really cool job and got screwed over and the job wasn't as cool as it was,
Mhm.
and they get mad about it. Like there's so many like just subtle or not subtle or relatable things going on in the story that I feel like people can really latch onto.
And when you get into some things, I remember, I think it was issue 3 where, your characters are in a new world and the people are touching and feeling and without,
Based on a true story.
yeah, but I'm a cis white man. I try to be open. I try not to be terrible, but also I have a very specific life experience. But the way you presented it was not a way that wasn't entertaining. It was entertaining and educational and true to the story you're telling. So it wasn't anything where I felt like pushed away from the story. I was like, oh, this is that world and this is that thing. And yes, I could see the corollary to what I have read about the experience of, mostly African American women with their hair.
It happens to me with my hair. That was actually like it happened to me a lot when I worked at like an upscale TJ Maxx in Manhattan, and I always wanted to be like, "Excuse me, ma'am, this is a TJ Maxx, not a petting zoo. Like, get your hands off
Mhm.
me."
Yeah. But the way you handled it, I thought was just what art is for. There's
Mhm.
it was educational and part of the story and entertaining.
And I try not
And
to be like heavy-handed with the messaging. Like it just happens and it's up to the reader to process what's going on as opposed to like having the character say like, "Hey reader, this is wrong. Don't do it." Like it's up to the reader
Yeah.
to know that what happened was incredibly messed up.
maybe you shouldn't do that. Yeah, I got
Yeah.
that you shouldn't do that. I did get that.
Yeah,
And
I
I
really
made
hate
9 phone calls of apologies that night.
oh my god. Yeah, I really hate like outright heavy-handed messaging in stories where it's like they're pretty much spelling something out for the reader and trying to make a point. Like there's a way to make a point without pointing fingers, I guess.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's my modus operandi.
In the comments, Tate says, I could tell that was based on personal experience and felt so bad for you.
Aw.
So, um, but she got like what, 4 pages of a comic out of it. So that's worth it, right?
Yeah.
Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe that's a
Maybe
cis
Yeah, I
white
not.
mean
guy. But,
it's
but,
one of
but
those things where I can look back and just be like, "Oh my god, I can't believe that like nonsense happened to me." But
yeah.
like
Yeah.
I'm
No.
okay. I'm alive, untraumatized by that at least.
So,
So the trade was your previous campaign, right?
Yep.
And I think I just got an alert that says, "Hey, mine is on my way." So I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to that very much.
Yay.
um, 5 issues. Uh, are you planning, to make these somewhat uniform from an issue standpoint, or
Yep.
just kind of where the muse takes you?
Oh,
So,
I have OCD. Like I'm not even joking that like ha 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 I'm so OCD. Like no, I have legit OCD, so I have to keep things at like a very specific page count. So it was like, issue 1 ended up being 30 pages, so I was like, all right, every other issue has to, hover around that same page count and like that's
mhm.
just how things worked out for me. So it's like, 30 to 32 pages, keeping it within that frame. So it's like
Right, right.
and then every 5 issues is gonna be a trade. So
mhm,
basically, it's gonna be like another 180-page chunker by the end of by the end of chapter 2.
Hmm.
mhm. Nice, very cool. Because I know Kevin and I, we are also somewhat I don't know that we qualify for OCD, but we are very, very particular about our hardcover collections. I want the spines to all freaking line up and have the right,
Yep.
the same trade
That is
dread
very
so that
important. That's actually how I collected my Sandman books, because they had the because they had so many different covers, and I wanted the ones that made a rainbow as they went across my bookshelf. So I went to like every Barnes and Noble, every Borders or
To
whatever
find the right one.
Yeah, because it like the thought of it mismatching would just like kill me inside. It took me a quite a while to amass the entire collection to my liking.
I have 8 of the 10 hardcovers,
Ooh.
and I just can't afford the last 2. The last 2 are like 200 a piece, and I just can't get them right now. So, but I did buy Powerball and Mega Money yesterday, so I might in a couple weeks I might be able to afford it. I don't know, but
So is there going to be a Kevco publishing imprint or something that we're expecting maybe in a couple weeks?
like what I love about the lottery is as soon as I pay my $2, I get to spend all of that money, and I don't have to pay taxes on it. And one week, I am the nicest, most generous person. Every dollar of that $300 million goes to somebody else who needs it. And then the next week, I am the most selfish piece of crap. Nobody else is getting a thing. All I'm going to do is buy golden tuxedos and platinum canes and top hats and walk around screaming, "Get away from me, pores!" And I don't know what it is until I get the ticket. So
there's no in between where you pretend that like nothing happened and you just keep it on the down low from everyone.
I can't say that. Maybe I won 2 weeks ago. I can't say that. I don't know.
I think what I would do is I would use that money to make $1 million in publishing, because I'd start with 10 million and lose 9 million in publishing comics.
Well,
Valid.
I think it was one of the Turtle guys, and I think it was Kevin Eastman created
I think it was,
an imprint, and he really gave people a lot of money to make their comics, and he just couldn't keep doing it. And this is someone who's become very rich off of his independent comic, but he was just throwing money away. And it's great that he did it for a while. But the cool thing is, now that there's Kickstarter, he doesn't have to do it. I think he did, or somebody else did something that when I first started, it was called Xeric Fund. And it was, you applied for it, and it was some amount of money, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 for you to do your dream project. And when Kickstarter really got going, the Xeric Fund decided they were no longer needed, and they went out of existence. Not because
$10,000.
Yeah,
you could have, and you have. I'm gonna go here. You have 2,663 already after what, 2 days? 3 days? So you've got 2,600, and now let's do the math. Let's go, boom, 9 created. Now we're gonna have fun.
Oh yeah, I've played this game, but I haven't played the game since the trade came out because I didn't get to count the trade.
So unfortunately,
it's gotta be over 30K by now, I think.
So I'm just
one thing that
going through. Go ahead.
Yeah, while Kevin's going through that, one of the things that I still do, because there's no greater fun than seeing Kick Track on the day you launch.
$22,000. You act as though I didn't go on Kick Track last night. $22,600. I was like, God damn, if I had that.
I'm already spending that money. I'm writing checks right now.
I'm already like going on people's Patreons and supporting my friends. Like, a bunch of cool shit. Like planning my next vacation.
But one of the things I really love about KickTrack is that data is there. If you go to some of the other little tabs down there, you can see your daily data,
Yep.
number of backers, the amount, and I grab that and I take those images and I store them with the Kickstarter so that I can come back, during the dead zone and say, God, this sucks. Was it this bad last time or the time before?
Yep, I've done
Yeah.
that too.
So I do love, like, hey, I'm going to make $30,000, and I never do, but it's still kind of fun. But there's really good data
It's
out
fun
there.
it's fun to play with it. Yes.
Yeah. Kevin's doing math, so.
I'm doing math. You guys
Yeah,
talk.
he's got his math face on. I can see it.
Yeah.
I've got my phone out to do the math. Actually, is what I have.
Nice. Yeah,
So
KickTrack it's a fun resource.
it is. Now, I'm curious. Let's say maybe before you finish Sacrimony, maybe not. It doesn't matter. If a publisher came to you and said, "Hey, we'd like you to work on a property that we have. Maybe it's Big Seven, maybe it's Scholastic, maybe who cares? Is there something that you would rather do? Not necessarily rather, that you would also like to work on in addition to Sacrimony and Buddy and Friend?"
Yeah, if a publisher came to me and they had like a good page rate, I would be like, yeah, I can set some of my stuff aside and work on your thing, like, because if it's something that's more sustainable than what I'm doing, I'm gonna be like, all right, sign me up.
Mhm.
Gotcha.
But it also builds what you're doing, like
Mhm.
there's nothing wrong with taking a break, building your name, and then all of a
Mhm.
sudden 20% more people know who you are and they
Yep.
come out to Sacrimony issue 7 and get the whole thing.
Mhm. Yep.
Yep. Yeah, I mean,
Absolutely.
like having a wider reach and also like, making more of an income than I'm making now, like that would be pretty cool. Like actually getting a proper page rate, like, oh man, that's the dream.
Yeah.
Because right now the editor of Sacrimony, she just doesn't pay well. You should
She's
have a
a
talk
hard
with her.
ass too. I punched her one time.
Wow. But the letterer is cool, right? I mean, we like her.
The
Letterers
letterer
are
is
always cool.
very grumpy.
Okay, so wow, that came out. If I put everything in, this is kind of crazy. So you just said you could use 10,000.
Mm.
Absolutely, we all could. That's a one-time only, and that 10,000 goes for the art. It goes for printing the book. It goes for all these things. At the end of the day, the artist out of that $10,000 probably gets negative 2,000. So you've been kickstarting for 2 years, 3 years?
Almost 3, yeah. Because I started
So-
in 2021, March of 2021.
Not counting the current campaign, you've raised, and this is really kind of insane. If I put them in right,
Oh, look at that!
$33,333.
I like that number.
That's cool.
So you've made, I think, $11,111 every year on comics for 3 years, which
Most of which was actually made last year. Actually, I think over 20K was made just last year, and the first year was like 8,000.
Sure, and that makes total sense because we're all growing, building, proving. But and look, people, she doesn't have $33,000 in her bank account because most of that goes to printing, most of that goes to shipping.
It's more like negative 3,000 right now. I'm not even joking.
Yeah.
I wish I was.
Will and I understand.
We do.
But would you rather have 10,000 from Zarek once or 10,000 a year for 3 years from Kickstarter?
Yep.
Porque no los dos? Yes, Pumpkin.
Yeah.
I know you're hungry. You're starving.
So we have to. I don't know that we have to work harder for it because I'm sure that getting the Zarek thing was hard work, but really getting out there and being able to get to readers and saying, "Hey, if you'd like this, can you help me make it?"
Yeah,
Um,
that's the thing. Like, you can get a grant and you can make your dream project and then have absolutely nobody know about it,
mhm,
Yep.
which was always
Mhm.
what I feared. Like, if I got a grant and, I got time to sit down and make this cool thing and, like, not have an audience for it. Like, okay, I printed 4,000 books. What do I do with them?
mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
this is definitely a better way to, get your name out there and just, like, keep afloat, keep going.
Yeah, it does, and that's kind of like why Will and I hang with it. And when we started doing
Yep.
the show, we're like, hey, if we can help get, we don't pretend that we get 50, 60, 70 people coming to a campaign, but if we can get
Yep.
5 to 7 new readers, that's beautiful.
Yeah, not gonna lie,
Yep.
like, the readers that I've got from your campaign, like Shawnee stuck
Oh,
around.
she's great.
Yeah,
Because
like,
she's awesome.
it's
Yeah.
amazing that it's like, you have people who are interested in comics and interested in, maybe finding their new favorite comic or whatever, and they
Mhm.
back these things and they stick around, and
Yeah.
that means a lot to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Absolutely.
it's fun. It's good. We're good. All right, so it's about midnight. I've had a blast. Now we've got some people in the comments. If you have any specific questions you'd like to ask, please put them in as we're kind of
Mhm.
winding down, because I love having people in, and I don't want you to leave without hearing what you want to hear about. But while maybe we wait for a question in, let's do one more 30-second pitch on Sacrimony, and we'll start winding it down.
All right. Well, it is a fantasy story about a teenage girl who died, but then she got better. And the catch is that she has no memory of her past, no idea why she has magical powers, or why she has demon wings that she has to hide from society.
Nice. Okay, so Shawnee in the chat says, "Nope, you're stuck with me now."
I appreciate you, Johnny.
That's funny. Hey, we would love to be stuck with any reader like Shawnee, and everybody. We're gonna kind of put it in. Thank you for joining us. Will and I have talked about it. We don't have anybody on the schedule next week. We're gonna take a Friday night off.
Treat
So
yourself.
no explain yourself Friday night next week.
No, it's
We
treat
actually
yourself.
treat yourself.
Yeah.
So we were going to have another creator tonight who got stuck on their trip and couldn't make it. I'm going to try to do something during the week. So Will, you're going to be working. I'll talk to Alan Dunford next week about his latest campaign. But you know what? Everybody either go out and party your asses off next Friday night, or do what I'm going to do and go to bed early. I don't know, Will. You're going to party your ass off. What are you doing next Friday night?
I'll probably just play Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom and
I
stay up
expected him
late.
to say that.
Yeah.
I
I am
got,
predictable.
yeah. No, so my daughter and I are playing it, and I'm super excited. She's controlling the action.
That's
Nice.
cool.
First, we went through Breath of the Wild, and I had the controller, and she was like, maybe do this, maybe do that. This time she's like, I'm going to start it. And like, she held on to it and she's playing it. So it's kind of cool. It's kind of
Excellent.
cool to be like the navigator as opposed to the pilot. So, but maybe I should go to sleep. Maybe I'll put on my game that I play for myself. I don't know. We'll see how Friday night goes. Everybody in the chat, we really appreciate it. You made the night go quickly, and we appreciate all the comments, questions, and thoughts. And we appreciate you guys. And Matt, we always appreciate you. You are like, we're not really joking. You're like the third co-host of the show. And
Yeah. Speaking of which, if you need a co-host, hit me up.
hey,
Gosh.
let's make it happen.
All
so
right.
always great
You're
to
not
see you.
rid of
Good
me
luck.
yet.
No,
Yep.
God, please, God, no.
Yeah.
Until we do something wrong, please don't let us be rid of you.
Yes.
Everybody, we love you. Have a great night. And if you got it, go back a comic Kickstarter or Zoop or crowdfunder or backer kit or whatever you like. And if you don't got it, share, because those are awesome for us as well. So
Yep.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.